So let's take a look at the correct working answers for C and D. When I see the number 16, the base that comes to mind is, for me, is a base of 2. I know that 16 is the same thing as 2 to the 4th power. Now, you may have thought of a different base, and we can look at that in just a moment, but I want to go with the base of 2 right now. So 16 is the same thing as 2 to the 4th, and then I will still raise that 2 to the 4th to the 7/4 power. We can multiply 4 times 7/4. The multiplying by 4 cancels out that denominator of 4, so we're left with just 2 to the 7th. Now, 2 to the 7th, you could reach for your calculator, but we can do this in our head. 2 to the 5th was 32. 2 to the 6th would be 32 times 2, which is 64. And then 2 to the 7th would be 64 times 2, which is 128. And we're done. Now, when you looked at part C, what you might have noticed first is that 16 can be rewritten using a base of 4. So 16 could be rewritten as 4 squared, and then all of that would still be raised to the 7/4. If we multiply 7/4 by 2, let's see, we get 14/4. So the only problem here is that we end up with 14/4, which we could reduce, and that would be 4 raised to the 7/2. The problem here is that we haven't arrived at an exponent that is a whole number. So we're still kind of stuck with a fraction. So we'd actually have to take this problem a little further. And what we could recognize now is that we could take that 4 and rewrite it as 2 squared, still raised to the 7/2 power. And then when we multiply 2 times 7/2, we would get 2 to the 7th power, which is the same thing we came up with here. So you can see that if we choose to rewrite the original base using a smaller base but not the smallest base, the process might actually take you a little longer. So when you're looking at a number and trying to decide how to rewrite it using a smaller base, it's probably best to try and think all the way down to the smallest base. It'll save you some time. Finally, let's look at D. 9, I hope what comes to mind is that 9 is the same thing as 3 squared. And then we have that 3 squared also raised to the 2.5. We can multiply the exponents together, and 2 times 2.5 is just 5. So we're left with 3 to the 5th. 3 to the 5th, oh man, let's see if we can do this in our head. 3 times 3 is 9. Times 3 again is 27. Times 3 again is 81. Times 3 again is 243. So 9 to the 2.5 is the same thing as 243.